What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom again, and this time we are here with Dean Roberts of the almighty Leatherwolf. Thank you for being here, man. It's great to have you here.
Hey, my pleasure. Hello to everyone out there in Radio Land
There you go.
or
And
Internet Land, whatever it is.
Internet land, YouTube land.
Yeah, YouTube Land.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too funny. We just released a couple videos on you through Vivo on YouTube again yesterday.
Oh yeah, that's all. They're awesome, by the way, and I wanted to add into that because "Kill the Hunted," your latest album, is absolutely epic. From tracks such as "Hit the Dirt," which I know you have a video for, to "Enslaved," this album is excellent from start to finish. Was there sort of like a preconceived vision of what you wanted "Kill the Hunted" to sound like, or was this more or less kind of like a very improvisational and maybe sort of like an experimental songwriting process?
It's like all other wolves were written. We started off the same way with Jeff and I, going back to World Asylum. Before that, they were done differently, but we've been sticking to that me and Jeff thing for a bit, and just finishing it. But it was different this time because we have different guitar players and we have different singers. So it took on its own vibe, which I think is kind of why it sounds and feels what good. I mean, this has, like, to me, I mean, it's kind of hard when you participate in it and you write it and you do your stuff in it, because it's hard to be objective. But I think that this, at least from my point of view, has a lot more feeling to it in the performances.
100%. 100%. And it's fair to say that because with, bringing a new singer on board and, having this sort of new lineup, this wasn't just a continuation of New World Asylum, right? This almost kind of signified, like, in a way, like a new beginning for Leatherwolf in a way, right?
Well, no, well, partially, but Jeff was the main songwriter on the riffs and the arrangements, so we had to just move on from him and get a couple other guitar players, which have always played with us, like Rob Mapp. And me and Rob just had to sit around in the garage and, complete the songs, figure it all out and do what we do, and that was actually, for me, super fun, because it's the first time I got to sit with a guitar player and do that stuff. And it was just really, really fun being creative on these songs. And I think you can just have a feeling, that's the difference compared to the old stuff.
You mentioned, like, one of my favorite words when describing an album, and that's vibe, because I think every Leatherwolf album, in a way, from Endangered Species to now, has its own sort of like unique little vibe behind it. Is that based off of basically like what you and all the Leatherwolf members were kind of feeling at that particular time in a way?
I just think that when you put all of us original guys together, we just had a vibe, and I think it always fed off Jeff Gayer. And I think you change one of the elements and it just changes the vibe. You get rid of me and Paul and you do Marco and Pat. It just changes the vibe of the music. And I just this vibe was just way cool with Barry Sparks and Rob Math and Joel Holstra and all the people I got to do work with, and a new singer that was much more positive and not so he was just more angry about what he wrote about, much more let's confront it and fix it, which I kind of like,
Definitely.
compared to the old Leatherwolf stuff. But no matter what, when you get in with a group of guys, it's always going to be a different vibe.
Of course.
And that's just the thing. And some people know it and some people don't. Some people think that you can just swap a drummer out and it doesn't matter. And some people realize that, hey man, you can't lose the vibe.
Yeah. Well, as the drummer, though, has collaborating with many different musicians throughout your career, maybe exposed you and opened you up to new technical ideas on how you play?
Oh yeah, yeah. When you're in the when you're in the creative process, and as you get older, you just start getting burned out of stuff you did. So you just try to figure out a better way to improve your skill. So on this one, I just took each song individually and I wrote it out on my parts on Superior Drummer and my everything, and then I had to learn how to play it. So I just noticed that whole technique was way more intricate than what I've done in the past. And it's kind of cool with technology. You can do that stuff because you you could hear it, and then see if you like it before you actually go record it, which was cool for me.
Absolutely. I think it's always good to know what you're getting into before you record. I mean, I've heard that it's often a nightmare when you're ready to record and then you have to alter and change things throughout it, right?
Well, I never had to do that. When we did our stuff with Island in the Bahamas, or any studio we went to, it was our thing. We did what we wanted, and we were lucky enough to be able to do that, not having someone breathe over our necks about performances.
Hmm.
So it was always that way.
As the drummer, have you always preferred to have music present before you laid down your parts, or have you ever, throughout Leatherwolf's career, ever had a whole drum pattern written and maybe the band could write over that?
Well, like for Nobody, that's pretty much how that one went, and for Kill the Hunted, I wrote that, and with Rob's help, and so that. But the Nobody is actually came from a drum arrangement that I stole from Alter Bridge, because I liked the way that guy was playing the drums. So I wrote that arrangement, and then Kerry wrote the guitar riff, and then Robbie wrote some guitar riffs also in that thing. But I like it always. When you can come up with a drum vibe, and a guitar player can get a melody from it. I think that's cool. But mostly things usually work, is someone comes with a guitar riff and a partial arrangement, then I'll get it, and then I'll just go figure out the times and figure out the changes, and then I might double up this or double up that or add a bridge here or whatever, because because you got to it's got to get put together. Where are the verses going to be? Where's the bridge going to be? Are we even going to have a bridge in here? Or is there going to be a chorus at the end, or is there not going to be? See, Kill the Hunted was more of that song. I wrote that guitar riff like back in 2009, I think, and that was more. I was trying to copy Judas Steeler vibe, with just a cool ending. Goes into a whole different like song than just a lead out. So that was no chorus. It only has two choruses and the two verses. Then no chorus.
Hmm.
So it's pretty random. When you build a song, you get to build it however you want to.
Yeah. Well, I always love having this conversation with drummers. I had a good discussion with Justin Foley of Killswitch Engage about this, where like a lot of people think that just because the drums don't have melody, there's no emotion channeled into it. But I think that's total bull, right? And as a drummer, help prove myself.
Well, at the end of the day, there's a lot of musicians that write and think that they're responsible for the song, and they minimize just the whole vibe of drums and bass. And it's as plain as day, dude. The drums and bass, when they write their parts, it has a vibe to it that really supports the whole song. And some guys respect that, and some guys don't. So I don't really want to hang around people that think that I wrote the melody, I'm the man.
But like when we hear hit those cymbals and you hit those toms and you bang it away, there has to be some sort of specific energy that you are channeling into it. It's not, are you only thinking about it from a technical standpoint, or is there some sort of like for lack of better words, like sort
No,
of
when I play, after I figure out everything I want to do, I just try to close my eyes and get into the vibe of the song, so I can actually just feel comfortable in how I play. It's too funny, you do all this work for a month or two, and then when you get in the studio, it's more about not thinking about it anymore. You're not thinking about the parts. You know what you're going to do, and you're just going to play it to the best of your ability, and not overthink it.
yeah.
And that's when I know I got it, is when I get to the place to where I don't have to think about it anymore. I can just naturally do the fills, or naturally just play it with a groove to it, and not be thinking about how hard I want to be hitting or how soft. It's more just a natural expression.
Yeah, especially with the style of Leatherwolf, it's just pure down and dirty rock and roll, no strings attached to it. I think overthinking could possibly be one of the worst things for this style of music, right?
Well, that's just part of the learning. When you're younger, you're thinking a lot about everything, and then as you get older, you just want to be the best you can be, and you can't overthink it. You just got to deliver, and you don't want to put too many obstacles in your way of that performance.
Hmm. Do you prefer to like practice or even write when you're more alone in isolation and you don't have anybody, you know, there's not too many cooks in the kitchen, or is it better to come up with ideas and songwrite when you're more or less in the company of your bandmates?
It's everything, you know. Sometimes you just you're in the mode. Like when I wrote the words for Only the Wicked, you know, when I wrote that whole story, the song hadn't even been around yet. It hadn't even been created, but I had a melody in my head. And when we did that deal, and I went over Jeff's arrangement and I rearranged it for the verse, choruses, and bridge, and lead section, all this stuff. And then Robbie started humming the melody. Na, 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 na. I go, dude, I think I got something. So I looked at my paperwork and here we go. I couldn't sleep last night. 1,000 things running through my mind, trying to forget. So I had it. So that's a fluke, you know, where you do that. With Kill the Hunted, when I wrote those words, you know, I was just baffled on the melody, you know, and so as we got to it, I took the melody I came up with, I used at the end of the song, and then I think Keith had a different melody, and I took that melody that he came up with and wrote a different words to it, but I thought it worked better, you know. So it's all you know, everything's different all the time about that stuff, and you know, when you write something that's killer, it's pure luck, you know, because I went and tried to write. I mean, Keith wrote a majority of the vocals for all these songs. I think I wrote two or three maybe, and he did a way better job than I did on the rest of the songs, because I tried to write words for The Henchman, and what Keith did was way better than what I did. And then I tried to write words for Nobody, and what Keith did was way better than I did, you know. But for some reason, when it came to hit the Kill the Hunted and Only the Wicked, my stuff just stuck, you know. So it's there's a lot of just luck, you know. Sometimes you just nail something and nothing can top it, you know.
Yeah. Well, I, you know, in the end, a band is 4 to 5 people. So when people tell me all the time with the making of every record, oh man, it was all mutual agreements, we all came together, I don't really believe all of it. You're in a band with 5 people, you're writing 10 to 12 songs. There's going to be some disagreement. There's going to be some headbutting in there. But let me ask you, is it better if everybody really is on the same page, or could people having their different opinion or different perspectives actually help enhance the songwriting, bring a little contrast into it?
Well, see on this thing, Jeff came up with the riffs and arrangements, and then he was out, and it was just basically me and Robbie managing the guitars. Or basically, Robbie wrote all the guitar stuff, but we were managing the arrangements, and then we were looking at Keith's songwriting, vocals and stuff, and we were just letting him. He did great, so he didn't need much input on stuff. You know, we just did a little this, a little that. But yeah, at the end of the day, that's what music is. It's different opinions combined to one recording. So the trick is just don't try to get in a battle to win. You just want to make sure at the end of the day that you're happy with the direction the song's going as a piece of music.
Yeah, of course.
And you're always going to run into conflicts, man. I mean, that was one of my main things is, you know, when I got back with the main guys, I just said, hey, look it, man, I need to be around guys that have resolution skills, not a bunch of whiny little bitches that want to just whine and be in control. Now, we have to learn how to resolve as men. And at the end of the day, that was my thing. Is I'm not here to win. I'm not here to be right. I'm just here to make a piece of music and just do the best I can with it. And you know, meet in the middle. You know, I don't like, you know, this, but at the end of the day, you know, it's not my job to write vocals. You know, so if you want to sing that, it's giddy up. You know.
Yeah.
And, that's just the way I try to operate.
Yeah. It's sometimes better to be nice than to be right. So like, I think.
Well, it's when it comes to music, there is no real right. You know, it's an opinion. It's a piece of music. You know, and it's everyone has their contribution to it.
You know, some people like to use music as a means of catharsis or a means of way of like, you know, looking inward and confronting themselves. And some people like to just use music as a pure escapism and kind of leave their personal lives out of it. For you, is it either or? Do you like to maybe use music as a means to express who you are? Is the drum machine of Leatherwolf almost kind of like an alter ego in a way? Or is it really just an escapism in a way? Did music just forget about the reality?
Well, it depends if you're talking about a conscious reality or a subconscious reality.
Both.
What are you talking about?
Both.
Well, every everything that we express in real time comes from somewhere, some experience from our history. So I think that every song is telling a story of the individual's history and what he knows, where he's at, and what he's doing with it. So I think that that's the deal is we're all telling stories, and some people will say, well, I wrote that, it was about this guy or whatever, but at the end of the day, just like Hideaway, I run, I hide away, I run just to stay away from you. That comes from some man that's running away from something, that doesn't want to deal with something, and when you ask the guys that wrote the deal, that they wouldn't say that at all. They would say something totally different. But I think music is an expression of the heart, whether you like it or not.
Of course. And to quote art history, but Henry Matisse, the painter, said every painting is a self-portrait. I think it's the same goes for every song as well, right?
Oh, full on. It's some people know it and some people don't. I didn't know it when I was in my 20s, when we were writing all that stuff on the first record and all those storylines, and the first time I started paying attention is when I wrote the words down to Cry Out. And You've Got to Believe. And it really touched me, and I think that was Jeff wrote that, but it was just interesting that, I was listening to a Van Halen song and I was told that subconsciously we pick up on the message, and I was just liking the song Mine All Mine, and I just thought it was a cool riff and it was a killer lead and it was Eddie Van Halen, But when you look at the words, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I've been through hell and back again. I shook hands with the devil, looked him in the eyes, looked like a long-lost friend. Anything you want, any dirty deed, he's got everything except for what I really need. Keeping me temporarily satisfied, but not one thing I tried filled me up inside. I just go, God damn, that's just phenomenal that Sammy said that, in the first verse of a song. And I had no idea that that's what the story was about. So it just really interested me, I started paying attention to what guys were writing about,
Yeah.
And I thought Sammy was pretty cool.
Yeah. And hearing you recite that with the sunglasses just so fluently, like, that just made it 10 times cooler in a way. I think you brought a whole new layer of meaning just by saying that. I'm gonna rewind the video and just fast forward to that one part where you're reciting those lyrics. You might be onto something right there.
Well, dude, I was just doing some spiritual or emotional investigation and trying to figure out, is it the song melody or is it the storyline? I had no idea what the words were. I did not know, and this was after Van Halen, and David left. And so I wrote it down and it was so profound. I know the whole song. It just blew my mind that, that something on my subconscious could identify with the story, which is basically, it's a full-on religious experience about believing in God or not, which was tripped me out that it came from Sammy Hagar.
Right? Hey,
yeah.
Out of anybody, right? But you can get it from anywhere. And there's some songs where maybe you love it for the melody and you love it for the hook and the composition, but then you look at the lyrics maybe when you're older and more mature, and then you realize, wow, this whole time this song was preparing me for what I would know to use it for in the future. So,
well, I could just identify with the story. At the end of the day, I realized, because this was when I was in my 30s, when that record came out. And I just realized that the story was trying to help me understand something about myself,
Definitely.
So that's what blew my mind, is I can identify with the story, selling your soul, chasing money, chasing women, doing all this stuff that really only keeps you temporarily satisfied.
Yep. And if it's...
The search goes on.
Yep.
The more I live, my world keeps getting smaller. Staring at the sun, searching for the light, almost ended up blind, It's rad. That's just kind of like when I wrote the words for Kill the Hunted, it was I can feel the darkness that surrounds me, killing everything that I create. Wastelands ruled by death and the forsaken, binds and ties the blood that runs within. So I started realizing that I was hanging around some people that were really negative, and if I chose to do that, then only negative things were going to happen,
I definitely...
So it was tricky.
I definitely see with Kill the Hunted that there's like, it's a great vibe, like it's a fun rock and roll record, but I think there's a lot of like meaning behind it of, cutting out negativity in your life and pushing forward and, almost kind of achieving the ultimate freedom by doing what is best for yourself.
Yeah, that was what I liked about Keith, is he was on the same page as that, and and the old Leatherwolf stuff really wasn't, you know. So addressing certain things, but hey, I still think the old Leather stuff was killer. It's just we were younger, and everyone was in a different place with, well, what kind of story do we want to tell the world about Leatherwolf? What part of myself do I want to reveal?
Yeah, of course. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time and for such an awesome conversation. Just Kill the Hunted is out now. What else could we be expecting from Leatherwolf in 2023? Any live performances coming soon? Maybe a New York date?
We're trying to get shows right now, and we're working on we're gonna finish up a record of some best of stuff and some other stuff, with some smoking ass guitar players, and we're just gonna try to play out the rest of the year playing shows and see if we can get into a vibe of a new record that's worthy,
Excellent. It's
But
most.
we're trying. You got a garage, you got a backyard. We'll come play a party at your house.
Well, I live in an apartment building, but maybe we can make it work there anyway. Maybe we could play on the roof in the center of Manhattan.
That would be killer, dude. Wouldn't it?
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't been. I think the last time we played in New York was shoot, dude, like 7 years ago.
Oh wow.
And it was a small little club too. It wasn't nothing cool.
Well, hey, those small little clubs get pretty awesome at times.
Oh, this was really small, dude. This was like an apartment building.
Good. You bring back those old CBGB's vibes. But thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Leatherwolf, Kill the Hunted, out now. Be sure to pick it up. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.
Take it easy, everybody. Ciao.